about salary negotiation. So I'm sure, we've all talked about this, like, why is salary negotiation important? It's not just important because you want to get more money. It's important because it's actually not that hard to do, but most people don't do it. So Reuters did a study about 54% of people don't actually attempt to negotiate their salary. But the Bureau of Labor Statistics did a survey, and about 85% of people who do attempt to negotiate their salaries get higher salaries. So it's really just important really to make the attempt. For really critical reasons, companies generally budget for the top of the range, not a single value. So typically, I know I'm seeing a lot of the job descriptions in Connect SC, and there's some that I'm seeing where the salary range is between $35,000 and $50,000. The company isn't budgeting for $30,000. They're budgeting for 50, because what happens at a company, if you're planning for your workforce, you have to plan for the maximum exposure. So you're budgeting for the top level. So most often they do have the additional cash to give you. So then it's about how to actually get them to extract that cash. Additionally, your starting salary is the basis for other bonuses that you might receive and raises. So most companies
Are they on the server?
No, just about to. I finished. I can upload your files now. I'm gonna upload your files.
No, I can do it onto mine.
Okay.
Oh, I see what you did. You didn't upload.
Okay, I think we're back here. So most companies give about a cost of living increase anywhere from about 3 to 5% of your salary. Most companies will have an annual performance bonus that's at about 5 to 10% of your salary, right? So if your starting salary is $40,000 and you get an annual raise of 3%, well, now you're at a salary that's still just below $42,000. But if you get that to 45, you're actually around 46, which means you have an opportunity to either leave that company, or if you get promoted into a new role, to get to get into the $50,000 range. Okay. Annual performance bonuses, same thing. They're typically fiscal year in bonuses that are a lump sum amounts. If your salary is $40,000 versus 45, it's a $500 difference. And I don't know about you, but I could do different things with an additional $500 in my bonus structure. So it's important to really focus on how you can get that that starting salary a bit higher, so you're eligible for higher bonuses. And with that, you need to be able to really fully evaluate your offer. Okay, so your offer, when someone calls you and says, hey, we can't wait for you to join the company, we have a salary to offer you, we have these bonuses, these other benefits to offer you. Your salary isn't the only thing that matters there, right? So I'm seeing more and more companies these days offer fitness benefits. When I worked at one company, they reimbursed our gym membership to whatever gym we were a member of. I was a member of Equinox. So, and at the time, Equinox was, I think, $200 a month. That was $200 a month that I wasn't paying because my company was reimbursing me for it. So I had to take that into consideration when I had my salary offer. A lot of companies do cell phone reimbursement either for the whole bill or part of it. So let's say your cell phone bill is $100. Well, now that's $100 that you're not spending. So no, you won't see that in your salary, but you will see that in cash that you're not spending. So you have to evaluate it. But also, you need to understand that the way that the company sees that. So your employee cost to that company isn't just what your annual salary is. Your employee costs are also what they're paying for these benefits. And these benefits are about 22 to 32% of what your salary is. So when they're paying for, your healthcare coverage or dental insurance, life insurance, any of those things. So your actual cost to that company is around about $52,000 or $53,000 approximately, because they're adding these benefits to your employment. And so it's important that you understand that in the way the employer is looking at you is like, this person, we're going to give them a $40,000 salary, but they're actually costing us more than that. So it's important for you to kind of understand, one, how you're benefiting in not your salary in kind of these non-salaried benefits, but also how your future employer is evaluating you. But how do we negotiate our salary? Big, most important thing that I want all of you to attempt to take from this: do not attempt to not accept your offer or attempt to negotiate it in your first conversation. That first conversation is really about getting more information. You're actually going to start your negotiation in your second conversation. You're going to use that conversation to ask an incredibly critical question. Is this negotiable? After the person goes through and tells you all the information about the offer, you need to ask them if the offer is negotiable and what parts of it are negotiable. Sometimes the salary is negotiable, maybe vacation is negotiable. Sometimes it's just the salary that's negotiable. Not everything will be negotiable, but there will be things that are negotiable. And the question you just need to be comfortable with asking is this negotiable? I want all of you to be able to try to do that, practice that in your real life, to starting asking people, is the offer negotiable? Okay. And what you're doing after that conversation, once you find out that it's negotiable, is you need to do the research. The Career Center has a bunch of resources. The one that I liked the most was Firsthand, because in that resource, you can actually see what the industry salary trends are, which matters because if you get a salary offer of $40,000 and then you see that the actual industry trend is $50,000, then you can ask a reasonable question of, hey, I'm really interested in this role. However, I am noticing that the role is actually opting to compensate me below the industry trend. In addition to that, really use this as an opportunity to lean on USC alumni who are at the company where you want to work. You can use LinkedIn, you can use the alumni directory, and the way that you're going to open that conversation with an alum is to simply ask, is there any information you can share with me about salary negotiation at this company? Because that person's already at the company, they've already been there. A few years ago, I was transitioning to a new role, and I had a conversation with an alum, and that person said to me, like, oh, like you can definitely negotiate an increased salary. Like where they start your negotiation isn't where you finish, but they tend to be more open to negotiating the signing bonus because they have more free money there. And so I went into that negotiation having a number of my salary in mind, but actually focusing on increasing my signing bonus so that I could, since I knew that was placed where I had money because someone told me. So don't be afraid to reach out to an alum and just who's at the company and ask them how they can help you about information on how to negotiate at that company. And then now that you have things, you need to make sure that you're evaluating the offer. Like, what are those benefits that have financial value to you? Company paid gym memberships, cell phone reimbursements, professional development. Professional development is a huge one because if you're at a company that's willing to pay for you to go to conferences, take a course, whatever it is, you're bringing those skills back to the company, but also you're never losing those skills. So if you decide to take a data analytics course that the company is paying for, and then you decide to leave that company, you still have those skills that you're going into whatever your next role is. So just getting a good assessment of that. And when you're thinking about your salary negotiation, you really need to focus on it's not how much are you going to give me. So if they say, yes, the offer is negotiable, your response isn't, well, what are you going to give me? Like, no, the goal is really meeting the number that you determine is best. So as you're doing your research, as you're looking at your experience, how you align, you need to know clearly what you want, because if you know what you want to how you end your negotiation, you will have the best results. Now, really important is how not to negotiate. It's really expensive to live in LA. They knew you were going to live in LA when they offered you the job in LA. That's not going to help you negotiate. My friend got offered more money with your competitor. Well, your friend doesn't work here and you don't have to either. Like, I know someone who got a higher offer than this. You don't know what their circumstances were. You don't know how they negotiated. You need to focus on what you actually bring to the role. I have student loans. Everybody does. That's not a space for negotiation. Salary negotiation is about the value you bring to a company. So when a company is making you an offer, they're essentially saying, this is the value that we believe that you bring monetarily to us. What you're doing in your negotiation is saying, I bring additional value. So bringing in things that actually don't have to do with the value that you add to the company isn't going to help you drive that dollar value, that dollar up for yourself. And then really importantly, do not accept an offer and expect to reopen the negotiation later. If you're not ready to accept the offer, just don't accept it yet. What you can say is, I would like to have a little bit more time. Now, most of the time, the person on the other end of the phone is going to say, that's fine. They might tell you, well, we need to hear back from you by Friday. But generally, they're going to allow you some time. But don't attempt to accept the offer thinking that you can bring it back later. There are some special situations that you should consider. There are companies that don't negotiate. It's important to ask why. So my first job out of undergrad, the company didn't negotiate because you got a raise every 6 months for 2 years based on performance. So you didn't really need to they didn't negotiate because there was a set amount of increase you would get if you met certain performance thresholds. I worked at a company that didn't negotiate because they offered substantially higher than industry average on the salary. So for them, they're like, we're not going to negotiate with you because we already know that we're paying you more than another company would. However, on the more negative side of that, I have a friend who recently interviewed for a company that didn't negotiate, and they told her that instead, what they like to do is give people a higher salary in their second year after their first year of employment. My friend said, well, I'm worth this amount of money now, so no, thank you. So if you come across a company that doesn't negotiate, find out why they don't negotiate. Just simply ask. It's a reasonable question to ask, and decide if those circumstances are reasonable for you and how you see your career going forward. And this is a space where actually understanding the non-salary benefits is critical. Another case where non-negotiation can happen are some smaller companies like startups. Some startups have limited amounts of funds, and so they believe in offering equity and some other items that they believe can have potential to add more value. So you just go on and just ask more questions and do more research in that situation. Signing bonuses, some companies offer a one-time bonus once you agree to take the role. These are important because they are one-time bonuses. They won't be repeated in the life of your employment at that company. So you need to take that into consideration when you're getting your future compensation. So for example, if you get offered a role at $40,000 a year and they offer you a signing bonus of $5,000 a year. Yes, in your first full year of employment, you'll have $45,000. But in your second full year, you know what your salary is? $40,000, because you're not going to get that signing bonus again. So take that into consideration and don't necessarily let that distract you, because your day-to-day bills and life and entertainment will be paid on your base salary, not your bonus. Addition to that is bonuses. So a lot of companies, I was looking on Connect SC, and there were a lot of companies that said something around the lines of like, oh, target compensation $60,000. But really what was happening is that the base salary was $40,000 and there was a bonus potential of like $10,000. And what bonus potential means, just that. It's potential. It might happen, but it might not. So those aren't going to be guaranteed. Very often in companies, bonuses aren't 100% reliant on you. Very frequently, the bonus is going to be first company performance, then business unit performance, and your performance. You can't impact 2 out of 3 of those things. So what you're going to want to ask, if they tell you that there's a bonus potential of 20% of your salary, you should ask, what is that bonus structure? And is that bonus guaranteed? Just to investigate the probability of receiving it, because if it's not guaranteed, or there are more factors that aren't within your control, you're going to want to take into consideration what you want your base salary to be, because again, your rent, your student loans, your expenses, etc., that is what is coming out of that bonus structure. That's what you're paying your life with your base salary. Bonuses are just that. They're just kind of fun bonuses that may or may not apply. Okay, and so I'm gonna go ahead and pause here. So I'm gonna stop sharing here and pause here for us to do about 15 minutes of questions before we get into the role play.
Hi, my name is Myra Carrillo, and I just wanted to see if we can do salary negotiation within our employer, and what would be the tips to do that?
Is it salary negotiation, I'm sorry, within your employer?
Yeah, with your current employer, where we know that our range or pay range is not within the market.
Yeah, so in that situation, you're going to be doing salary negotiation. Typically the best time to do this is around annual reviews. If you're doing a year-end annual review, if you have a biannual review. And in that case, it's different from taking your first job, because you should have a book of work at this point where you can say, hey, in the last, say, 6 months or a year, I have been responsible for, I've exceeded these benchmarks that you have for me. So if you're in that space of what you want to do is go, well, what are my job requirements? And what am I doing to exceed my requirement. So if the requirement is increase membership by 10%, well, you've increased membership by 15%. So what you're asking for in that circumstance is to be compensated for what you've done. And then you can say, I've done these things. I would like to be compensated at this number based on my performance if you're inside of the role already. And then I'm going to pause. Sarah, are you still on? I just want to see if you're going to be moderating some of the questions here.
Yes, we'll do. We have a couple in the chat and we have someone else who is raising their hand. So I'll go with Cynthia Zhang. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Hi, Jillian. Thank you for taking the time to do this today. I was curious, for a lot of these entry-level roles, I've noticed that when you try to negotiate, I've heard friends say that the outright recruiters just say it's not flexible. So from there, I assume you wanted to try to look at other values of signing bonuses and stuff, but how do you really navigate a conversation like that when there is that power dynamic of you're just leaving undergrad and they're telling you that this is how our program works and it's structured like this? Does that mean there's no place for negotiation, or how would you navigate that?
If you've asked the question, is this offer flexible, and they have said no, it's not flexible, then I would look further on what the other benefits are, right? So it's a space of like, okay, so the salary isn't negotiable. Is anything else negotiable? Am I getting a cell phone reimbursement? Am I getting a gym membership reimbursement? Am I getting some other non-financial compensation that's present here? Because again, your salary is the total is not just what you're bringing home in your paycheck, but it's also other places where you might not have to spend any money or where you're getting some benefits. So I would really deeply assess what that is. I would also, if you're applying for roles in California, New York, and Colorado, those roles have salary ranges posted. And so if you're applying or you've just interviewed for a role and the recruiter is saying, oh, the salary I'm offering you isn't negotiable, I would reasonably ask the question, there was a salary range that was posted in the job description. Did that mean that there was a range available? Now it's a difference if they said the salary range was $40,000, between $40,000 and $50,000, and we're offering you 45. That's kind of in the middle. But if they're like, the salary range is $40,000 and it puts to 50 and we're offering you 40, then you can kind of pull on that question, because they're the ones who said that there was a range available for it. But I would pull harder on what the other benefits are and deeply investigate kind of what those are, and then see if that is something that's actually going to work for you.
Gotcha. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Okay, so a couple questions in the chat. Kim is asking, what would you say if you were asked what your salary expectations are in the initial phone interview or when applying online?
No one likes this question, but you need to define what the range is for yourself. So what you can say is, I am negotiable in this range. So you can say for yourself, I am negotiable between 45 and 60. Make it a very wide berth. When you see some of these JDs, the berth is very wide, but that is answering the question for yourself, is I'm negotiable between $45,000 and $60,000 a year, and drop it right there. Ideally you would try not to answer the question, but I know in a lot of these job descriptions, other than a lot of the online applications, they're forcing you to pick a number. If you do have an opportunity to not say your exact number because you don't want to baseline yourself, what I would do in that space is, well, first what your line is, I want to learn more about the role and more about the job requirements before starting to evaluate the finances of it. But if you're forced to pick a range that has a very wide berth.
Okay, and the next question is from Corinne. Can you speak more to negotiating with nonprofit management in that limited budget mindset?
All right, so these are spaces where you're in a nonprofit, your role has in a nonprofit, what you're often dealing with is that your role is funded by a grant. So the grant says that you can have 3 employees for a maximum of $40,000 a year. You're going to be, unfortunately, a little bit stuck there. You can ask them, the key question you want to ask them is there flexibility on the salary? And if there is, then you can kind of push. Now, you might end up in a space if you got an offer of $40,000 and the best you can get it to is 41. That is the nature of nonprofit. So what you're going to want to look at is what is your future potential at that company? Are at that nonprofit? Do you have future, if you're joining that nonprofit as an associate, do you have greater future potential to access higher amounts of salary at a manager level? Or is there anyone who works there who has been an associate for like the last 7 years? So you're going to be deeply constrained there. And then you're going to want to look at benefits. Very often nonprofits are able to qualify for programs that have better health benefits for employees. So you're going to want to kind of double down on what some of those benefits are and things that they have that are more negotiable for you, that are more consistent for your life.
Yeah, that's really good. We have another question from Marina. When negotiating within your current employer, if you are offered a specific merit and higher title, but it doesn't fit the current market and your new degree, how can you then negotiate a higher salary rate?
So I'm gonna presume that I might be dealing with a grad student who is still working and pursuing a degree. In that case, the potential value that you're adding to your employer is that you went to go get this new degree to give yourself more skills to add to this particular employer. If that employer is not doing tuition reimbursement, or you have some type of tie to that employer, I would be open to leaving. And so if you don't want to leave, what you want to say is, I've gotten this degree. I've gotten this degree. This degree has made me more skilled at doing this job and for reasons X, Y, and Z. So I got the degree to be better here, to add more value here. But also, I am hoping to be compensated in addition, based on what the value is that I'm able to add. And hopefully you would know those things. So if I had a friend I went to business school with, she had a degree in fine arts and she stayed in the theater realm, but she ended up working in the operations space. So she's like, well, I have all of the fine arts experience, but now I can work on the business portion of the house. And now I add more value. But if you're currently working, you need to take some time to think about how your new skills are adding value to the company. So have you picked up did you take an operations course and now you're doing operations for the company and now that's adding more value, but they're trying to keep you at the same salary? Or I would try to tie what your new skills are to what the new things you're able to do with the company. And then that's how you would explain the value to get to where your market rate is.
Great. Alexa is asking, could you talk a little bit about competing offers and including that in the negotiation?
I would only include a competing offer in the negotiation if you are willing to walk away from one of them. The conversation of, I have this offer from Deloitte and I have this offer from PwC, when you have that conversation with Deloitte, very often that's going to put the recruiter on their back foot for you. That's not actually going to work in your favor. So if you're going to do that, you need to be comfortable walking away from one of those offers. So if you say to Deloitte, like, hey, you've offered me $60,000 a year, but PwC offered me 70, what you got? If Deloitte says, I only have 60 to give you, so take it or leave it, you need to be, is that in a reality that you're comfortable with? If it's not, don't do it, because you're going to put if you really wanted to work for Deloitte and you've now entered a contentious relationship by comparing them to their competitive company, that's not going to help you. So if you do it, make sure you are 100% comfortable with walking away. That becomes a different situation once you're out and you have work experience, because what will happen is, let's say you're working for Deloitte and you've been at Deloitte for 2 years and PwC is back and they're recruiting you and they're giving you a higher offer. It's very expensive to hire new employees. And that's a space where you can say, I'm being recruited away from you for a higher salary that I think is more consistent with what I deserve. And I know it's what I deserve because they're offering me that. But if it's your first role out of undergrad, I wouldn't do it unless you're 100% comfortable walking away from one of those offers.
Okay, another question from Angel. Is it possible to negotiate for a lateral move?
So in terms of, you are an analyst in let's say you're an analyst in one department and you're an analyst in the next department. Yes, if your responsibility is going to change. So let's say you were the customer service analyst, but now you're a sales analyst. When you're the customer service analyst, you're really helping to manage the relationship the customers have with that company. But when you're a sales analyst, you now have an impact to revenue. So the job title might be the same, but it's still lateral. The responsibilities are different. So now if your job is somehow tied to revenue, then you can then the conversation you have is, I'm going to be an analyst, but now I am responsible for this amount of revenue. Hence, I would expect that I have an increased amount of responsibility in how I impact the company. So I would expect for my salary to also have the same increase.
Great. I love seeing all of the engagement in the chat, all of the thumbs up and the comments that you all are giving each other. We have a great question about education from Cassidy. So do you have any advice on how to leverage education when talking about salary expectations? I have some work experience, but went back for my master's and feel that I should be compensated for the advanced and specialized knowledge I have.
Okay. Tie what the advanced knowledge you have is to what's new in the company. So I think I said before, so if let's say you have an undergraduate degree, so you've been working in accounting for the last 3 years, and now just use operation. Now you've got advanced skills in operations. How does that help the company? How is that meaningful? So it's not, you don't want to open that negotiation by saying, I spent the last 2 years getting this master's degree and give me more money. No, you want to say, I spent the last 2 years getting this master's degree and I see myself impacting the company in ways X, Y, and Z. And I would like my compensation to reflect that. And Sarah, I think we have time for maybe one more question, and then we can get into the mock and then come back to questions.
Absolutely. So the last question for this section of the workshop is, if a company offers the top of the salary range, is it possible to negotiate higher than that?
You can ask. You can ask. I think in the space where now companies are very much posting what the number is, you can ask, hey, is this offer negotiable? You can always ask. If they say no, don't be surprised. And if that top of the range is something that you're comfortable with, take it.
Love it. Okay, so we will go into role play, and let's see here.
So just going to try to put kind of into action some of these things that we've just talked about. So this job description, I found it on ConnectSC. So my visibility of ConnectSC is very different from students' visibility of it, just because I've graduated, but I just saw this role as with LA's best after school engagement program. So just to kind of put some of these things into action. All right, and Sarah, whenever you're ready.
Awesome. Okay, so hi, Jillian. This is Sarah, the HR director from LA's Best. How are you?
Hi, Sarah. I'm so glad to hear from you again.
So I'm calling you today because everyone you interviewed with was very impressed and would like to offer you the position of engagement associate.
I am so happy to hear that. I'm really excited about the offer, and I enjoyed everyone I met. Can you share more details with me about the offer, like information about the start date, salary, benefits, etc.?
Sure. So we'd like to offer you the role with a base salary of $66,000 a year. We have medical, dental, vision, and a cell phone stipend. We also have a very flexible time off program, and we would love to have you on the team. So are there any questions I can answer for you?
Great, thanks so much. Just so I understand a bit more, can you tell me the average amount of money that employees pay out of pocket for their healthcare benefits and the amount of the cell phone stipend? Also, what does flexible time off really mean?
Sure. So most employees who only have medical benefits for themselves only pay about $150 per pay period. Since we expect that you will use your personal cell phone for work purposes, you will receive a $50 a month stipend. And for the time off, we have a PTO program, which means you get 14 days a year to use for sick, vacation, and whatever else. We don't force you to put a category on the time off.
Thank you. One more question. Is this offer negotiable?
So what exactly are you interested in negotiating?
I'm really happy to have the offer. I just want to understand if there's flexibility in the salary or any of the other items you've mentioned.
Yes, so medical benefits, cell phone stipend, and the time off are amounts that are set. There might be some flexibility in the salary. So do you have a number in mind?
Again, I'm so excited to have the offer. I would love to take a few days to review the details. Can we reconnect on Tuesday?
Absolutely. So I'll email you the details and a calendar invite to discuss this again.
Okay. So that's our first conversation. Clear things we do is we didn't accept the offer. We asked some key questions, and we're going to do a little bit of research for what we do when we get our offer. So salary offer is $66,000. Based on the job description, we know that the salary range is 66 to 75. They've offered us the very bottom of the range. Okay. Now the non-salary benefits are my half of my cell phone bill is going to get paid. So that's $600 a month that I'm not paying. My health insurance is $150 a pay period, so about $300 a month. So that's money that's coming out of my paycheck. So it's $3,600 about a year that's coming out of paychecks for my portion of my health benefits. I also get 14 days of paid time off. I like to travel. Sometimes I get sick, so that may or may not be useful for me. So just evaluating the offer, understanding that. Now, here we want to really, really focus on what does the job description say. Every job description has two very clear sections. Job responsibilities, the things that you are going to have to do once you have this job, and qualifications, the things that they want you to bring to the job. You're going to want to look on both sections to see where your experience and where your education matches where the responsibilities are and where it over exceeds what the expected qualifications were. So in that job description, they ask you to plan some site visits, you're managing a calendar for fundraising, you're collaborating with nonprofits, and you're creating systems to increase internal collaborations, right? That's your job. That's the job they're asking you to do. The qualifications, though, say approximately 3 years of work experience preferred. It's not required, it's preferred, right? They're saying experience working with children is preferred, but it's not required. They want you to be familiar with communities served by LA's Best, and they want you to be skilled at working with technology and working remotely. So I'm an undergraduate student at USC. I'm about to graduate. What have I done? Well, I'm a volunteer with Troy Camp. I've been a tutor and I facilitated after school studies, and I've been a mentor. I'm also a member of a sorority. I do new member orientation for all of our new members to help sure everyone moves into the sorority smoothly. Also, I've worked at the bookstore, and I had a work study job at the front desk at Annenberg. I've also done my software, so I know Canva, I do Office, I do team meetings on Zoom, Meet, Microsoft Teams. This is what I know about myself and all of my activities and all of my skills in the time that I've been on campus. Now, where is the overlap? Where one of the job responsibilities is volunteer engagement and cultivation activities. Well, remember I just told you, I'm the new member outreach coordinator for my sorority. I already do a bunch of activities. I create activities. I reach out to people on a very regular basis. I'm creating programs for people who are for 300 people to meet with our overall national chapter. I'm very skilled in engaging people and creating activities based on this other thing that I do. They've asked, hey, they want me to have some experience working with children and working in nonprofit environments. I volunteer with the nonprofit on campus where I work with children. And they said that was experience that was preferred. It's actually experience I already have. And they want me to be skilled at using technology. Well, hey, I already know Microsoft Office, Teams, Zoom, Meet, etc. I've used them to coordinate my team projects at school. I've had a couple of remote classes. I believe SC still does a couple of remote classes. I'm very skilled in technology. So I have qualifications. I've exceeded what they said was preferred. They said their preferred qualifications. And I'm already doing some of the things that they said I was responsible for doing in the role. So as a result, I think I deserve a little bit more money because they're offering me the very bottom of the range. but I already have it. So get really clear on what those are, right? So even if you want to just pull out what the job qualifications are. So what I've done here is going experience working with nonprofit environment. Oh, that's when I work with Troy Camp. Experiencing creating activities for several people. Well, that's my sorority. Like experience with software skills. That's all the things that I've done with my hybrid classes and things of the like. And then once you have that down, make a list of what those are and exactly how those things tie. Then you're going to want to really practice saying it in your own words so that when they ask it to you, you're able to say it in a repeatable way. So in your own words, you could say, in addition to my education, like my extracurricular activities have prepared me for the role. I bring 2 years of experience working with children in a nonprofit environment, as well as strong planning and coordination skills for helping new members of my sororities. And I'm very comfortable using several types of software to collaborate thanks to my group projects. Again, it's tying what are you asking me to do in the job? How am I exceeding the qualifications? How do I tie those together? And then making sure you have those very clear examples. And so now that we've prepared ourselves, let's go back to our conversation.
Awesome. So conversation number 2. Hi, Jillian. Have you had some time to think about the offer?
Yes, thank you so much time for giving me the offer and giving me time to think about it. I'm very excited about the opportunity and really want to join the team. Though I am graduating next month, I believe I bring relevant experience to the role that should be compensated accordingly. In the job description, you said you preferred someone with nonprofit or educational experience along with the familiarity with LA's Best. For the last 2 years, I've been a volunteer with Troy Camp as a mentor and leader of bi-weekly after-school workshops for middle and high school students. Many of those students are from in Troy Camp, come from LA's best communities. Based on this experience I bring to the role and my familiarity with the community, I would like to receive a base salary of $70,000.
Okay, well, the salary is within our budget, and let's discuss the start date.
And I know that sounds really easy, but I will tell you, for example, I had a mentor. I'm a mentor in the first generation program, and she she had an offer from a market research firm, and she had happened to do survey research when she was working at I believe the School of Gerontology, and she was able, using her experience that she'd had there, she was able to increase her offer. So again, really wanting to understand where you are adding value to your employers. So I'm gonna just share my screen again really quickly, just so we can review our checklist, and then we're gonna open right back up to questions, okay? So here is key things we need to make sure that we remember. We're not accepting that offer on the first call. That call is to get more information. You're asking if the offer is negotiable. Ask your questions about the benefits, and then plan to speak again in 2 to 3 days. You're going to research the company using USC Career Center resources and reaching out to USC alumni who are currently at the company. You're going to want to ask the question, is there information that you can share with me about salary negotiation at this company? Because they've already done it, so ideally they should have some information to help you with. You're going to review the job description to determine where there is overlap between what you have done and what the role is both requiring you to have qualifications and the duties in the role, because these are not the same, okay? Then you're going to build a 1 to 3 sentence story to showcase how you add value to the company and why you should be getting a higher offer. Okay, and then I just included a slide in the back here. If anyone wants to reach out to me, feel free, although I know there's a great staff at the Career Center who will be able to help you with everything. Okay, and with that, I'm going to stop sharing and we can use the rest of the time for questions. Let's go.
Let's do it. Okay, so we have a question about career transition, how that ties in with salary negotiations. So Jordan said, I'm changing careers and needing to apply to jobs that are closer to entry level. How can I express my understanding that I need to earn less than I do now without losing credibility?
You need to earn less than you earn.
I think more.
So
Actually,
let's say you're in, let's say if you're in.
Would you like to unmute yourself?
Yeah, help me understand that.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, so basically, I'm changing career paths, and so I'm having to start at closer to an entry level position than what I'm normally. So basically, I'm an older student, and I understand that because I'm changing careers and I don't have as much experience, that I need to start at a lower pay. And then, when someone's interviewing something like this, it is a little odd. Well, why would you be, lowering your pay?
Gotcha.
It's just changing my career path.
Gotcha. That is a actually fairly common thing that happened. People will be like, I'm entering for a director role, but I've been a director for 10 years, but now I want to be a manager. That's not uncommon. The reason people are asking you that is because they are worried that in 6 months you're going to be clamoring to be a director or a higher or have a higher salary that you have now. So really what you need to do is impart confidence that you know what you're doing. That you really do mean it. So what you would say is, so let's say you're going from being an engineer to a sales manager. Okay, let's just say it's that. So what you're saying is, I'm intentionally changing my career from engineering to sales because I'm interested in sales for reasons X, Y, and Z. Okay. And you want to communicate that, why you want that role, why you're doing that. And you can say, I understand that this is going to come at a decrease to my salary. However, this is a passion of mine. This is important to me. And so I'm willing to take that decrease to have this change in my career. You just want to, because you want to make sure that people feel confident in your ability to stay, because the concern with someone's kind of checking down is that in the next 6 months, they're going to be clamoring for a higher salary or clamoring to be a director or something else.
Does that answer your question, Jordan? Yes. All right. So we have another question here by Angel. If they say no initially in the negotiation, how many times and how do you recommend on negotiating back? Or should I stop once they say no to my initial attempt? So how many times can you really have that back and forth conversation?
You're kind of in a 1 to 2 space. Does it matter to you? If they've said no, are you willing to walk away from the job? If they've said no and you aren't willing to walk away, what you can say is, I am disappointed. I would hope to have a higher offer based on the values of X, Y, and Z that I bring to the company. That is and you can ask, why isn't it negotiable? Why isn't it more negotiable at this point? From there, you're kind of stuck, unfortunately. Now, it's reasonable to ask why. It's reasonable to, like I said, there are companies that don't negotiate, and to find out if that's a fit for you, and you can decide if that's a company that's going to work well for you or if you want to walk away from the offer.
Okay. So Matt has a question. What are some specific things you can say to show you offer additional value, and how do you convince an employer to increase your salary and or benefits? So it's more of a general question.
Yeah. So additional value, if you're, like I said, if it's a job that it's new to you and you're applying to, you're going to want to look at how you exceed what they've told you are qualified. So I think that the job description that I'd read, it said, like, ideally 3 years of experience here. It's like, well, actually, I have 4 years of experience in this particular area, and I have specialized experience in this area. And then if there's anything in the roles and responsibilities that, again, what you would do in the role that you've already done, then you're going to communicate that value. That's going to be a little bit easier if you've already graduated or if you're in grad school. For those of you who are in undergrad, it's still going to be about really trying to hard tie some of your undergraduate experiences to that, but really looking at what are they asking for, both what did they say in the job description and what did they say in your interviews of core things that you would be doing, and what examples that you have from your work experience, activity experience, etc., to be able to drive home why you would have a higher value there.
Okay, so we have another education / salary negotiation question. How do you negotiate student loan reimbursement or pursuing another degree?
If that is an offer that the company has. Not every company does student loan reimbursement. Not every company does tuition reimbursement. So you're going to want to ask if that is a benefit. If that's not a benefit they offer, you can't make them offer it. If that's not a benefit that they offer at the associate level, but they offer at the manager level, you can't force them to offer it. You can't pull blood from a turnip.
Right. Okay. So Shirley is asking a question about relocation packages. Could you please explain how relocation packages play a role in salary negotiation?
Yeah. So if you're dealing with relocation packages, generally you're looking at they will compensate you a bit for if you have to do a hotel stay because you're doing a home finding visit. Typically that will include any moving expenses and a little bit of a cushion while you're maybe in between the apartment that you have in LA and when you're waiting to move into your apartment in let's say Chicago. That is going to be separate from your salary negotiation unless the relocation package includes cash to you. For example, I had a relocation package that they took care of everything. They completely just were like, hey, they coordinated the moving company, they coordinated everything, they figured out like everything, like this is the hotel you're staying in, it's fine. They also gave me a cash payment to assist with anything else. That was a check that I got before I started there. So if that cash payment is there, and we all know that if a company gave you a check for $5,000, you would find a way to only spend like $10 on things that you needed and play with. Then you would probably consider that into what your total compensation is there. So it's generally going to be fully separate and focused purely on what your salary is, unless they're giving you some cash. And then you're going to want to include, so let's say the salary is $60,000 a year, they're giving you $5,000, you're basically getting $65,000.
Okay, so last question in the chat by Matt. If a California employer doesn't post a salary description, even though they're supposed to, or let's say there's just no salary description at all, how do you go about asking them to post that information?
You can ask them to post that information. Or you can say, before they used to do this, what I used to say frequently was, what is the budgeted salary range for this role? It's a reasonable question to ask. Ask that question very early. So most companies, your first interview is with HR. Ask that question to HR. Do not ask that question to the person who would be your boss or any people who would be on the team, on any teams with you. I just saw a question pop up. Yes, I'll be sending these slides to Sarah, and I believe she'll be distributing them out. But yeah, ask that question very early on and ask it in your first conversation with typically the recruiter or with whatever HR member you're dealing with. Do not ask it later on. It creates a weird conversations for you.
Right. Okay, any other last minute questions before we close off this workshop? Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for engaging. Thank you, Jillian, for all of the helpful negotiation tips. We just want to remind you that negotiation is an important skill, right? Both in your personal and professional conversations in life. So keep practicing, keep asking questions, and then most importantly, just step forward in confidence. Remember that you all have a unique set of skills, right? And values and experiences. So like Jillian talked about, it's important to communicate them all. Jillian will be providing us with the slides. I will send it out, and we will also be posting this on our USC Career Center YouTube page, so you can play back and watch again. But in the meantime, good luck, everyone, and fight on.
Bye, guys.
Thank you so much, Jillian.
Bye.